The GallowgateShots podcast is sponsored by Tyre Spot, the North East's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. We are back with another match preview after the demolition of Manchester United at St James's Park. We are now turning our attention to another game at St James's Park, 2 on the bounce. It's the midweek game at Crystal Palace. I'm Scott, I'm your host for this one, and I'm joined this week by Daryl and Andy. Boys,
hello.
We got over that bullying of the Manchester Reds.
No,
are we still buzzing from it? Because I am, even though I didn't get to see, because I was out with the missus for her birthday. But I've seen the highlights and I saw the last 2 goals. But what a performance! Oh,
magic! Absolutely magic! Absolutely terrible. Well, I don't want to say terrorizing from start to finish, but we certainly imposed ourselves on them from start to finish. And they only scored because we let them in, and it was from our own mistake that they got in and scored. And the rest of the game, it was just a case of attack versus defence. I think really. There's a couple of flash points where they got in, but most part, it was one-sided, really.
It was. And if you want to see a full match reaction with a little bit of a tipsy Andy and a little bit of a tipsy Maddie. And
I was not tipsy. I was having a cup of tea.
Oh, you were fine. You were, yeah, but you must be. Yeah. But anyway, there is a match reaction to that game. They did a live one, so it'll still be up there. But yeah, if you have a look at the live section of the channel, it's all on there. But we're going to take our attention to the next game because they're coming thick and fast. This is the Palace game at St James's Park. It's on Wednesday, 16th of April. It's a 7:30 kickoff under the lights, as they always say. And I believe it's on Sky again, Sky Sports time. Palace, they were on a little bit of a run, and I was quite surprised when I checked where they're on the league. They're down in 12th. They're on 43 points, 11 wins, 10 draws and 10 defeats. 41 goals scored and 40 conceded. That puts them on a +1 goal difference, so they're doing a lot better than our previous team that we faced. We'll not mention them anymore. And as always, I've got a few commentator stats, and they're all pretty good for us, actually. We do well against Palace, from what I can see. So let's rattle through them, and then we'll talk a little bit about the game. So here we go. Newcastle have kept a clean sheet in 6 of their last 8 Premier League home games against Crystal Palace, including each of the last 3 in a row. Palace have won just 1 of their last 7 Premier League games against Newcastle. That's with 2 defeats and 4 draws. Their last victory was a 2-0 win at Selhurst Park in April last year. The reverse fixture back in November, the game ended a 1-1 draw. We probably all remember it for the wrong reasons because we only had 1 shot. Our goal was an own goal from one Mark Gahey, who I'm sure you remember him from the summer. And it was only the 8th instance on record of a side having 1 shot or fewer in a Premier League match and not losing the game. So there you go. Since the 14th of December last year, Newcastle have won more games in all competitions than any other Premier League side. That's 18 and 23, with their 53 goals being behind only Liverpool, who were on 61, and Manchester City on 58 in that time. And I think Man City, they've played like Southampton and Ipswich and all these lower teams. So, I think we still got Ipswich to play, haven't we, if I remember rightly from the fixture, so we'll easily catch them. Although not that we needed after beating Man U 4-1, so, we'll catch up. And finally, from the commentator stats, Newcastle have lost just 1 of their last 12 midweek home games in the Premier League, with 8 wins and 3 draws. Their last midweek defeat was a 3-1 defeat to Nottingham Forest on Boxing Day in 2023. On Wednesday specifically, here's a one for you, Newcastle have won 5 of their last 6 at St James's Park in the competition, and that 6th one was a draw. So there you go.
Oh, that was the Everton one, wasn't it?
It was the Everton one. That was a Paul Dummett.
Yeah.
DDT or whatever it was he did. Yeah, that cost us big time, actually. But there we go. Boys, like I mentioned earlier, Palace went on a bit of a run about 4 weeks ago, or the end of the run about 4 weeks ago. When I was looking at the stats, they were doing okay, but they've kind of, I don't know if run out of steam's the right word, but Andy, they're not doing as well as they have been. Maybe it's a little bit of a dip in form, but they've still got plenty of players who can cause us some serious damage. We've got to be wary on these. I think the league position doesn't tell you everything about Palace because they're playing good football. They've got really good players. This isn't going to be as easy as maybe some people would think it would be if you look on paper, look where they are in the league and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think the league table deceives a little bit because was it 10 wins, 10 draws, 10 defeats plus 1 goal difference? That's like the most painfully average season you can imagine, really, isn't it? But I think they suffered from
one more win, but yes,
yeah, they suffered from the bad start they had because obviously Glasner took over halfway through the previous season, I believe, and it took the place by storm. Obviously, they'd kind of been going mega pragmatic with Roy Hodgson, tried to go more expansive with Vieira and people like that, and it didn't really work out. So they went pragmatic again, and Glasner's tried to be expansive again, and it seemed to work. And then started the season, they're in the bottom 3, and it was like, is it the same problem with Palace where they try and get out of just being a team that survives, and they end up going back to it? And they obviously lost Sahara a season or so ago, and it kind of looked like Palace were just going to kind of float around and then maybe eventually go down. But Glasner's got them playing with a right style and a right swagger. Players, like you say, all over the pitch that can hurt you. Eze's obviously taking most of the headlines, match winner on his own. With Palace, it'd be one of those players, not to do what we hate people do with us, but a big team is going to come in for Eze surely because the guy is absolutely unbelievable. Mateta's done really well. I love that Munoz at fullback. Adam Wharton in centre of midfield. I think he should have probably been playing at the last tournament for England. He's a quality player. They've just got quality players across the pitch, and they probably haven't had enough credit because of where they are in the league. The way they play, they should really be up there with Bournemouth and Brighton and those teams that are kind of pushing Europe a bit more. But they're a good side. I mean, the most recent game, they went 2-0 up against Man City. I was stood in, I was at the cricket with the notifications on, decided to then go and watch part of the game in the sticky wicket at Durham, and then they were 3-2 down immediately. So, I mean, we said this on the match reaction about teams going 2-0 up against our Champions League rivals and then throwing it away. So they really didn't do us a favour there. But they've been on a really good run. But what I would say is that they've had quite a favourable fixture run as well. They beat Brighton, Southampton, Fulham, Ipswich, Millwall, Fulham, and then they lost to Everton. They beat Villa, but it's like they haven't really sort of been tested an awful lot as well. So I think from their point of view, they'll be looking at this as a great opportunity to show what they're really about because, away at Man City, it's basically a write-off for everyone, isn't it? So good team, can't take them for granted, and obviously it's crunch time for us as well.
Yeah, and I think, Daryl, they did suffer a little bit in the middle of the season. I think Eze was injured for quite a while, and that you saw that affect their performances when, I think it was actually at the start of the season, if I remember rightly, and that was when they were, bottom 3, like Andy was saying, and they weren't performing. And then he's come back and he's almost rejuvenated them a little bit, got them the results that, took them out of that relegation battle that, you thought at the start of the season they were going to be in. They're now, you don't want to say mid-table mediocrity, but, 11 wins, 10 draws, 10 defeats. That's the definition of mid-table mediocrity. So, they're getting there, but you think 1 or 2 more signings and they could be up, competing for that second part of the league where, you could argue where we are at the moment, but it's because the league's so close at the moment. You get a couple of wins in your belt and you're up there in 6th, 7th place, 5th, 6th place, and you're flying.
Yeah, it's been one of those weird seasons where it's sort of like through some weird circumstance, like Spurs and Man United are the 2 examples that they're suddenly turning into teams that are either bang average / poor, or if you want to spin it a particular way, if you're a Tottenham or Man United fan, you've gone into a transition, haven't you? And we've seen that in seasons previous before where other teams have taken advantage of that and found themselves quite high up the table. In terms of their players who were with danger, you mentioned Eze, that he was out for such a long time and he had such an influence. You could almost suggest that his influence is similar to the one that Zaha had when he was still at the club, and that when Zaha didn't play, Palace slumped, and then when he was back in the team, they performed well. That's not to discount either Philip Mateta up front, because he's an absolute unit, and when he's firing, he's a bit of a beast up front, and he can certainly out. I mean, it'll be a fantastic battle between him and Dan Burn and Fabian Schär on Wednesday night. I think it'll be such a physical battle between the two. It's going to be a right little war up there. And we've mentioned Ollie Glasner there as well, and I think he himself is potential to be snapped up, because I read somewhere, I saw a headline that he'd been attracting interest from the Bundesliga, about a Bundesliga club maybe watching and monitoring him for them to then be poached and taken back over there. And you mentioned there at the very start about how one or two signings might make Palace a better team, and that's no doubt. However, they have to fend off the interest from bigger clubs again. They lost, was it Michael Elise last time at the Bayern Munich? And as Andy said, he listed a couple of players there. All those players will be under the watchful eye of somebody higher up the table or from above.
Mark Gahey.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of Mark Gahey, he comes back from suspension. He was missing the weekend, and so was Eddie and Ketia. They were both missing through suspension after that. Absolutely volatile. Well, not volatile, but it was a bit of a mad game against Brighton when there was
the M25 derby. Actually looked like a derby for a change, didn't it?
It was very fiery. And like I say, those red cards came in, so they were missing because of that. So they come back into the squad as well, so they're quite fresh. So I don't know about you guys, but I was thinking ahead of the Man United game that actually this was the one that I thought would be the trickier of the two games. So again, we're going to have to be on the ball, and I think it's going to take another Jason Tyndall rallying call for the lads to get behind it and do the work and do the job for Eddie. Get well soon, by the way, Eddie. I think it's going to be a case of rallying around the players and getting them to fire up and perform again.
Yeah, well, as we all know, we have a direct feed into the RVI's television set. So yes, get well soon, Eddie. He will be watching this.
And he's got one of those little pull-down tellies on his bed, like.
Yeah, you got to top it up on the machines and then put your card in.
Soon, Eddie.
There he is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Daryl's mentioned there, and obviously the bigger clubs will be looking at some of these players. You could argue we'd be looking at some of these players. Someone like Eze, we should be looking at a player like that, maybe just to bolster our front line. Maybe he doesn't get straight into the squad, but as a rotational, you're thinking we're going to be having 60 plus games next season we've qualified for Europe, but if we get Champions League, which it's looking ever more likely, we're going to need a player like Eze. We're going to, we were linked heavily with Elise last season before, Bayern Munich came in, and no one really beats Bayern Munich when they want a player, but, that kind of happens. It's all down to whether Steve Parish wants to sell, and does he want to sell to us? Do we want to do business with him? That's the other part of it, really. After what happened in the summer, maybe it's hands off, or maybe we just avoid them like the plague. But they've got some players that, you look at them thinking, actually, wouldn't mind them in our squad.
Yeah, I like the way Palace do the business as much as Parish irritates me. They're a properly ran club, and it's frustrating because we obviously, I've mentioned this before, we get annoyed when bigger clubs sort of just expect that they can just go and take players. And it's not really fair for teams like Palace who actually recruit properly, build up a squad. They obviously have a really good academy as well. And then all it takes is they're basically just a trial run for when Arsenal decides they want to buy the players. It's not really fair on them. There should almost be some kind of a rule that allows teams to actually get good. Because then you end up with the situation we've had over the last 10 years where the big six just hoards all the best players. I mean, Chelsea being the prime example. I mean, Eze, he's one of these players who you could easily see just going to Chelsea and never doing anything with his career. But the lad seems to have a really good head on his shoulders. He's been really good for England when he's played. He's definitely a player that, Palace are fortunate to have. And I suppose, to make the Wilfred Zaha comparison again, it's a player that they need someone like that who's willing to be a talisman for the club and to stick with them when things aren't as good. So yeah, good players all across the pitch. I mean, they've got that Ismail Assar on the other wing as well, who I didn't realise that was the same Sarr that played for Watford and was like a one-season wonder for them. And he's had a sort of real resurgence as well. So good players everywhere. And one of those teams that when they're on match of the day, they're always worth a watch because there's always goals and they play proper football. And, in an era we're in where the big clubs are ran so badly and just bore everyone to death but take up all the TV coverage, I'd rather see a team like Palace do well. So if we're going to sign some players, I'd actually rather stay away from them and maybe just take them off the big boys instead.
Let them have a season at Chelsea and then we'll get them on a loan for a season afterwards. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll turn our attention to Newcastle now. Obviously, Joe Linton, I know we talked about this in the last preview, Daryl, but Joe Linton's still one yellow card away and one game away from that being wiped off. But he managed to, although he was very close when he was getting substituted off to
he was after
the book. But he's still one card away from a suspension. Dan Burn, I don't.
He's fine now.
Well, he can't get 2 yellow cards in a game, but he would get a 1-game suspension if that was to happen. Ironically, would be probably better for him if he got 1 yellow. Just get another one. So, I think the pressure's off Dan Burn a little bit there, but obviously we're not keeping an eye on Joe Linton, but Joe Linton's got to just watch his head a bit because he nearly lost it against Man U. But that's still a worry because we saw against Man U, you take Joe Linton off, you take Bruno off, and that midfield, it's just not the same, is it?
It's not the same, but I think we can probably say that there is quality in there, certainly in Lewis Miley. So if you were to lose one of those two, then there's not going to be that much of a detriment there. I mean, obviously, we've said it countless times, and it might as well repeat it again, that nobody does the job that Joe Linton does in midfield for us. I don't think there's anybody close in the league who can do that either. And, it's well, what do you say? I mean, Christ, they're great players, a lot of them in there. Sandro was absolutely superb on Sunday afternoon, and Bruno and Joe Linton just doing that thing. I mean, I actually thought that some of Joe Linton's play was absolutely excellent on Sunday. He was really able to move the ball around very, very well, and whether or not that's a consequence of Man United being absolutely terrible, whatever. You play what's in front of you, so he was doing tremendously well in midfield in terms of getting the ball
assist as well. Let's not rule
that out.
Yeah,
and you know what it is? There was a good few moments in that game where he was picking up the ball and there was a Man United player on him, and he was toying with them. He was like, yeah, you try and get past me. He had his arm up. He was like, you try and get past me. You can't do it. And he spun a couple of players.
He was like a matador, wasn't he? He was like bringing the tackles on. Yeah.
He was just brushing them off like they went out, and it was really, really good to see. But again, the Palace game, I said earlier, it's going to be more of a tricky task, and I think their midfield will probably pose slightly more different problems. I think it's a more mobile midfield than the Man United midfield. So our boys are going to have to be sharp and on the game to deal with that. And, I think the defence is, alluded to it earlier, the defence is up for a tough time with Mateta and the two wingers there as well. The defence will be interesting. I think there's potential for a lot of space to be exploited because Munoz likes to get forward. He's doing quite well for anybody with an FPL team this season. He's in mine. He's known to get a few points, but I think it could be quite the entertaining game, to be fair.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Andy, but it's certainly, if you're watching as a neutral, you're going to enjoy this one, I think. There's another big question mark over another position, and it's obviously the Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon dilemma, as it is. We saw Gordon come on, he's got a few minutes. I think also there was clips of him 30 minutes after the game is over. He's still on the pitch doing drills, so he's obviously trying his hardest to get his fitness up. But, I mean, Harvey Barnes doesn't just step aside and let Gordon come back, does he? That's his position now to lose.
No, we had this conversation in our group chat, didn't we, about does Gordon come straight back in? And I think we're all in agreement that Gordon's got to earn it back. No one's got a God-given right to start a game. I mean, there's probably only, well, I guess the midfield as well, but someone like Isak, who's got no one really behind him to threaten the position. But it's one of the positions where we are actually blessed with two players that can both make a big impact. I think obviously in the early part of Barnes' career with us, he's had little flashes of greatness. One game maybe where he scored a winner, but never really like a sustained period where he's done it game after game. And I think we're seeing that for the first time now, where we're seeing him actually get involved, link up the play, link up with his fullback, get shots away, score obviously crucial goals. I mean, the 2 goals against Man United, 2 very different goals, show what he's all about, really. Obviously, first one's a proper poacher's instinct. I mean, the Man United players do just let him waltz into the box, but it's a good little run, expecting the ball to put it away. And then the second one, I mean, Matty was slightly drunk during the live stream yesterday, but he did say it was like Ben Arthur's goal against Bolton. I don't think it was that good, but it's a great little run just to finish. Well, you can always tell when a player doesn't really have to do anything fancy. They're just confident that they can just control the ball and drive with it in a straight line. It was great play. So it's a good problem for us to have because we don't really have that in many positions. Obviously, when Hall's back, we've potentially got a dilemma at fullback with Trippier there as well. But it's great to see, and we just need to have that in more positions where everyone's pushing each other because, if there's ever a sort of mentality issue, then if you've got someone breathing down your neck, then you're out the team. Simple as that. So I would personally stick with Barnes. I think he's done really well. And I think Gordon as a bench option is absolutely frightening if you're a Palace fullback and you've got him running at you when your legs are tired. So really impressed with him.
Yeah, and is this going to be a potential issue though, Daryl, with obviously the pace that Palace have and the threat they're going to pose going forward? Obviously, Harvey Barnes is linking up very well with Tino Livramento. Harvey Barnes is also getting back very well in defending when he's needing to as well. But is Tino going to have that freedom of getting up the pitch and linking up with Barnes as much when you've got to have one eye, looking backwards almost, thinking, right, where are the Palace wingers? Because I've got to get back and do my defensive duty, because he's not going to have that freedom like he did against Man U.
Yeah, I think certainly when you come down to player v player there, I think Ismaila Sarr is going to be the kind of player who isn't going to do a Mo Salah like he did in the cup final. There's a reference. And I think he is going to track back. So there isn't going to be the opportunity for Tino and Barnes to be like 2-on-1 against the right back. So that overload isn't going to be an option. So it's going to be a little bit more creative. And I think we also have to deal with, in return, is the threat on that side as well. Because, we all know what Sarr's like going forward. And again, you wouldn't get that defensive cover with Gordon. Now, I agree that I think Barnes will start, but I do fear slightly that this could be one of those games where he sort of disappears a little bit because he's not going to see much of the ball. If we're not on top of our game and not able to bring him into play, he could find himself quite isolated. I suppose that's actually the way you could talk about the entire front three as well. If we get penned down into a battle in midfield and trying to deal with Palace's threat, we could end up isolating ourselves as a front line. Again, it's going to require the team effort of being one unit and everybody getting back and everybody being able to get forward. And again, that is going to be crucial down both sides. I think it's been quite positive, just to flip it over to the right-hand side, it's been quite positive to see that relationship between Trippier and Murphy developing the way it has. And again, we all know what Murphy and Isak's relationship is like. It didn't really bring much fruition on Sunday, but again, Murphy did crop up with another assist for Barnes coming into the box there. And I think it's going to be really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's working out great, Andy. We've scored all his goals in the last 2 games, but Isak hasn't got a single one of them.
It's been ages since he scored. We've scored like 9 goals since he last scored, I think, haven't we?
Some say we don't need him.
Arsenal could have him.
Yeah, they have them for free. Yeah. But is it a case that, when we talk about the wing backs and them having to cover, do we play it almost like, and I'm thinking back to like the way Man City played against us a couple of seasons ago, where you had the likes of Kyle Walker. He was positioning himself so high up the field that he wasn't allowing our wing backs to get up the pitch because of where he was playing positionally. They forced us to not be able to attack just by the way they were positioned. Do we just do that same thing to Palace and go, okay, the threat we can pose on you. Let us bring the game to you. We're at home. We're going to have the crowd behind us. You're going to come into the pit that is St. James's Park in terms of that. You're going to have a drunken fan base who's been out all afternoon getting behind you as well. Like, let's just take the game to them and get the game by the scruff of the neck and actually get at Palace, and that's how we're going to win this game.
I wish I'd be drinking all afternoon on Wednesday. I'm going to be at work. but yeah, a lot of them will be. Yeah, my dad will be drunk. No, I think it's interesting because on paper they play the same formation as Man United with the back three and the wing backs, but the difference being where we had Diego Dalot last time, who is absolutely awful and couldn't go forwards or backwards. They've got Munoz, so it's going to be a different proposition, and I can't imagine we've prepared the same. But to answer your question, we are at our best when we completely just gun for teams and we just outrun them and desire them, if that's even a thing you can say. But they are definitely a difficult proposition. I mean, but you look at the Man United game on the break, we did look a bit susceptible, and we were a bit fortunate really that they're as bad as they are. But that's been the story of the season, where we have sometimes overcommitted a bit on teams. But the idea, a bit like Keegan ball, is that you'll score more than they do, so it doesn't really matter. So I do think we've just got to be careful against these. I do think Ed. Well, I guess this is another conversation. How much has Eddie actually been able to do? But I imagine that the training is going to be slightly different. I think we will try and be a bit more solid. because Palace are quite good in build-up and getting the ball up the pitch quite quickly, whereas Man United were just pumping it long, looking for runners. So I don't think it's going to be that kind of a game. But I think just to jump on what we were talking about Barnes and linking it into the fullbacks, I think Livramento at left back has just been so good, and that's helped the whole left-hand side of the pitch. So I think at times where we've looked a bit weak this season, it maybe has been where the fullbacks have been tired or there's been injuries or whatever. But Livramento now looks like left back's his preferred position. He looks fantastic there. So not to jump too far ahead in terms of prediction, but I think if we can show that a bit more defensive resoluteness than we showed against Man United, but still have that expression going forward, I think we're on to a winner.
Yeah, he's been a bit of a revelation, hasn't he, at left back? It was a worry when the news came out he's going for his surgery, Daryl, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. We thought, we haven't got any cover. People were saying, we're going to have to play, Trippier there, and he doesn't do well in England. And then all of a sudden, Eddie Howe's went, well, hang on, we'll play Tino Livramento then. Obviously, he can do it, and obviously he's known. He hasn't just thrown him in the deep end. I'm like, there you go, you can play left back because you can do it at right back. So it's only the other side of the pitch, but he's actually, done very well. And the way he runs with the ball, his dribbling ability, I mean, the way he was taking on players, the little step overs, and even just the way I don't even know how he got past his man for that cross.
Glides past them.
It was so weird, but it was. It's nice to see. It's nice to see he's got more than what we expected when we see him, because everyone knew his capabilities at right back from his Southampton days, and obviously he had that injury, which I think a lot of people forgot about Tino Livramento a little bit because of that long injury, but he's back to arguably better than his best that we'd seen.
Yeah, I mean, we saw glimpses of him at left back before Hall cemented his place in the team. And he's taken the bull by the horns since the injury to Lewis Hall, and he's really come out on top of it. And, you mentioned he's embarrassed a few players since he's taken up that position. And, it worked so well in the cup final. It worked so well on Sunday against Man United. I don't know exactly which bit that we were just talking about there, where he just sailed past the player. And he sort of like took it left to right to left again to get past him. He sort of like did a side. It wasn't even a side step. It was an in motion. He sort of like shimmied the ball in motion, just overs away.
It's almost like he did nothing. He didn't do anything, and the ball was kind of moved, and the player was expecting him to do something. He was like, "Oh well, I'll just go where I was going to go." Anyway. Yeah,
absolutely.
It was good.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to seeing him get many more crosses in with that left foot, and hopefully some more assists as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, who would have thought there'd be 2 Matador references in a match preview? But there we go.
That's the kind of content people come for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next week, you'll see Daryl in a full Matadors uniform. You have to get out the dryers, out the dry cleaners. We've had it over the weekend. We'll come to Ref Watch, Daryl. Speaking of Matadors and men in the middle, who is that link, wasn't it? There we go.
The third one.
Who is the man in the middle this week and the person on VAR?
Right, so the man in the middle for this one's going to be Darren England from South Yorkshire. It's going to be his 3rd game of the season. That's after he did the reverse fixture of this game down at Selhurst Park with the 1-1 draw. And he also did the 3-0 win against Wolves at St James's Park. His stats for this season, he's done 15 games in the Premier League this season, issuing 66 yellow cards and 3 reds. And he's also awarded 3 penalties in the league this season. Don't have any instances of him being on VAR because he hasn't done a VAR game for us this season. But the man on VAR is going to be Craig Pawson. We've seen him a little bit this season. He's been referee for games against Southampton on the opening day, where he sent off Fabian Schär. Everton at away, which was a 0-0 draw, and then the 2-0 defeat at home to West Ham. And we last saw him just a few weeks ago, which was the game after the cup final when he when he was VAR for the 2-1 win against Brentford at St James's.
There we go.
And we should say the semi-auto offside was actually decent.
Did you enjoy it? Was it all right? It looked all right on the TV.
Well, I was looking for these magic boxes that you were on about, Scott, with all the iPhones in, but I couldn't see them anywhere around the ground.
Yeah.
There was something that looked like a CCTV camera, and I couldn't work out if that was what it was meant to be.
Maybe. I'm sure Sky did a piece on it. There's something on their YouTube channel about how it all works. I haven't watched it. I'm sure Daryl's got it on repeat. being
I
a
will
ref.
have somewhere, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're different. I remember seeing something that they're going to be like in these little white boxes all around the pitch and up in the stands and everything. But who knows?
But it worked, which is the main thing.
What's the thing on Sky? But yeah, I didn't see it on telly. Like I said, I only saw some of it. Did they show any of the 3D images of the players in the like they do on the Champions League? Was any of that shown?
It was the Ipswich game, wasn't it?
Yeah, they showed something in the early game. Yeah, that was on. I think that was on Match of the Day, wasn't it? Where they were working out if something was offside when it was. There was a one.
They did do the proper like 3D render thing, and it seemed to work. And I haven't seen any massive VAR delays at the weekend, so hopefully it's a step in the right direction because there's been some shambolic ones, hasn't there?
Well, fingers crossed. Well, let's not delay any further, and let's go to our predictions. Links Central.
You're on fire. Segway Central.
Let's go to our predictions. Daryl, mate, what are you going for this one? Come to you first.
I think I mentioned it before, and I think we are in agreement about how tricky we all think this game's going to be. I think it is going to be a very tough affair, but I do back us to see it through. I'm going to go for a 3-2 win. I think there'll be a lot of goals in this one, so I think it'll be 3-2 to Newcastle. I'll give you Barnes, Tonali, Isak as goal scorers, and for them, I'll probably say Mateta and Eze.
There we go. Andy, what are you going for?
Well, I was thinking 2-2. A good old Desmond, and I don't know. We haven't really talked about it, but I'm slightly concerned about the fact that we don't have Eddie Howe in the dugout, and we don't really know how good Tyndall is in terms of like his actual. I don't know. Does he get instructions? Is he able to think on his feet? I think he did really well against Man United because he obviously had to give halftime team talk where we weren't quite 100% at it, and I just worry with a manager like Glasner who is actually pretty good technically.
Yeah.
There's potentially a risk there that he can get the number over on someone like Tyndall, who's not obviously he's very, very experienced, but not as the main guy. Although I did say in the match reaction that the fourth official is probably very grateful that Tyndall is busy with tactical stuff and not just stood next to him giving him grief all game. So I was going to say 2-2, but I think the home advantage will help us see it through. So I'm not going to say 3-2. Because my heart can't take it, but I think 2-1. I think it will be tricky. I think we maybe have to come from behind and then ride a bit of a storm out. But I think we'll do it. So 2-1, and that puts us third. And it does, yeah. Arsenal.
This is what game. This is the game in hand, isn't it? This is the crucial game in hand that we have over everybody else at the end of the table. Forgot to mention that before. Actually.
And if we do win that, it's like we're in the box seat for the rest of the season now. So the lads will know that, and that will surely be the motivation going into it. Is it's one hand on the not one hand on the Champions League. That sounds a bit too far. One foot in the competition.
hey, this is the push for second. That's what this is.
That would be crazy.
Daryl was going to say 3-2. I had 3-2 in my mind as well. I think Palace have got goals in them. I think we've got goals in us as well, and I think it's going to be one of them where we'll go ahead, they'll bring it back, we'll go ahead again, they'll bring it back, and then it'll just be one of them horrible games where you just think we're getting a point from this, and then we might nick it right at the end. So I think I'll stick with 3-2. Why the hell not? 3-2 victory.
Ask me again after the coin toss.
I think Isak is due a goal. He needs to get back on the score sheet. He doesn't need to because we're scoring from everywhere else, but I think he will get back on the score sheet. I do think Palace will score early, and I think they'll maybe get 2 early. I think they'll go 2-0 up, which won't be great, but I've got full faith in Tyndall actually, and I think although Eddie Howe's been away from this, I think they would have had a good game plan for this run of games coming up on what to do, who's going to play, and injuries aside. And again, we are doing this before Tyndall's press conference because Jones is doing it. I don't know, but yeah, I think Tyndall and Jones handle themselves well on the touchline. You've got to remember Graham Jones is no slouch when it comes to this sort of stuff as well. He knows what he's doing. So you've got both of them calling the shots. So yeah,
you've got like all the analysts and everything as well. It's not like Eddie Howe does everything, but so we should be fine. It's just that like 1% that I worry about, like in game. But be right.
Yeah.
He might be there. He might be like the Undertaker.
Imagine half time, all the lights go out, and he just comes up from the halfway line.
That's Eddie Howe's music.
So I'll go Isak, and I'm going to go Tonali Brace because I think
Nice.
he's on the score.
He is class, like he is class. I wouldn't be surprised.
Couple of long rangers, why not? Right, that's it for this one. If you've been watching this and you're a Palace fan, how's the season going? You've turned it around a little bit. Let me know. What's your predictions for this one? Let me know as well. Obviously, Newcastle fans, feel free to join in as well in the comments. We like all engagement from all fans, and we are a Newcastle podcast, so let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your predictions are. And while you're down there, if you haven't subscribed, and I know a lot of you watching this aren't subscribed because we see the percentages. So the ones who aren't subscribed, I think it's like 43% of people who watch this aren't subscribed to the channel. So hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit, was it 11,000 or 12,000? I can't even remember. But we're trying to hit 11,000. It is 11,000. 11,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So please help out. Get across that magic number.
Plenty of content for you. There's loads of it.
And your content. There's loads. I mean, there's the drunken mess that was last night. It wasn't it was a good video.
It was an hour.
It was an hour, yeah, and you're only supposed to be on for half an hour. This isn't really an hour. There's also Beyond the Lines, I think, that's getting done as well, where Matty will be with another Palace fan. You've got Always Smiling Faces podcast, which is on now, I believe, is where we're recording. So, it'll be on soon. But anyway, that's getting recorded now, live. So turn over after you watch this. It'll still be live by the time we're done. Although you'll be watching it pre-recorded.
That doesn't work.
Go back and watch it.
Don't enter the competition. That's what they say on the telly, isn't it? Right. But yeah, and while you're down there, hit the thumbs up button because that'll get this video in the feeds of other Newcastle fans and other Palace fans as well. So give them something to watch. And if you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program. It's right next to Andy there, $2.99 a month. Gets you early access to videos as well as exclusive content. That's the wrong way, Andy, according to my screen. There you go. As well as exclusive
That was the right way on my screen.
And pre-season as well. Boys, this has become an absolute car crash at the end. Let's hope the game has a better result than this one. Thanks for joining us on your Monday night. We'll see you all in the next one. I just want another win. I want her to get second. That's it. Goal.
Why not?
Goal.
Why not?
In fact, do you know what? Let's go for the double. Let's go for League Cup, Premier League title. Liverpool are going to mess it up. We'll catch them.
Are you saying that we're still fighting for this title? Is that what you're saying?
We are still fighting for this title, and I would love it. I would love it. No, I'll take Champions League. Let's not be greedy. But yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care of yourselves. Ta-da.
Bye.